Hi. Quick reminder. The opinions and views expressed by my guests in this episode don't necessarily reflect mine or those of the show. Not every episode, but some episodes this season, we talk about very deep, serious subjects. So if at any point you need to take a pause from listening or watching, please do so. Your mental well-being is far more important to me than any listener metrics. And the show will always be here when you're ready to come back. All right? Let's go. Hi, I'm Adam Jennings, and this is Awaiting Approval, a podcast about the messy human side of creative leadership. Today, I'm joined by James Ferguson, Director of Experience Design at OVO, for a relaxed, two-way conversation about his journey, the lessons he's learned, and what it takes to lead with creativity and honesty. James, hi, welcome to the show.
Hey, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, I'm looking forward to this. We've had all manner of technical hiccups this morning already, so hopefully the technical gods are now shining on us and the rest of the recording will go well.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. For those people watching or listening to get to know you a little bit better, if we were meeting in person today to record this, where would you suggest we meet and what would you order to drink?
Good question. Well, I'm based in Brighton, originally from Edinburgh, and I took the long way around via Sydney, Australia. So, we'd probably be in Brighton, and at the end of my street, there's a really nice coffee shop called Starfish, and we'd probably be there. I'd probably be having a decaf black Americano. I've been trying to give up caffeine after 12, so yeah, I'd probably be on the decaf, but yeah, that's probably where we'd be.
Love it. Well, I'll raise a decaf coffee with you. I go through cycles of trying not to have coffee late in the day. So I
Yeah.
hear you. He says with a bottle of full-on caffeinated Coke at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So I'll raise that for you to sort of cheer you on for this recording. And by the same token, again, for people to kind of get to know you a little bit better, is there something on your desk that you're happy to share or show that gives a little bit of insight into you or maybe how you work?
Yeah, I've got quite a lot of things on my desk at the moment. So I've got this little chap, um, uh, which I've never been able to work out. Is he a potato? Is he a peanut? But regardless, like he sits on my desk and like just always kind of brings a bit of joy, I guess, when you're in various meetings. And occasionally I'll just be like, kind of like bring it up to the screen, see if anybody noticed. Is anyone actually listening to you? And you're like, oh yeah.
Right.
So I love doing that on big calls as well because you're like, see if you get a reaction. So yeah, that's that peanut boy or potato boy that's on the desk.
I love that. He's very cute, I have to say. And I
Mm.
love the idea of just like testing the waters as to who's tuning in. I saw a video recently of a big meeting. I mean, big, maybe sort of 10 people on the call, and the boss is talking, and everybody else is in on it apart from the boss. And they've all got random things that they're drinking water out of. And it
I've
starts off
seen
as
that.
like a piece of Tupperware, and then it's like a gravy boat or a shoe or something like that. It's
Yeah,
hilarious.
I know.
So
And it's funny because people don't pay attention to these things. You're like, what are you doing? And you're like, yeah. So
yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of it's funny, isn't it? Like one of the things that I say when to guests, like I've just said maybe 5 minutes ago to you, is this is pre-recorded. So, like if it's a small sort of stumble over words like I'm doing right now, we'll leave that in. If you want to redo the answer, we'll go back and we'll redo the answer and it's all fine. But there's still the second a camera starts rolling and there's a thing that you're presenting or talking about, there's still always a little bit of nerves. I mean, even for me, like 30 years in, like there's still a little bit of nerves. And so I wonder how much of that is the focus is on, "Oh, I must say this right, I must present that right, I must get these things across, rather than, wait a minute, did she just drink out of a desk lamp? Or do you know what I mean? Like, it's funny.
And I think that's the thing as well. Like, no matter how, experienced you become or whatever, those nerves still come. Like I was recording a little video for a blog yesterday in the office, and it must have took about 20 takes to get one line out. Like, and it was ridiculous. But like it's just, yeah, it's just hard.
Yeah. Yeah. at Fantasy, we were huge users of Loom for giving
Nice.
like async reviews and things like that, and it worked great. But also for client presentations and
Yeah.
pitches, and so there was often on a Friday afternoon a thing of like sharing your Loom bloopers with things that go wrong. And I think the winner was one guy whose desk collapsed mid recording,
Oh,
like
wow.
properly like broke and collapsed down. So um, and I think I have that clip somewhere. Anyway,
Yeah.
so when you're feeling that little bit of nerves around doing something like that, what's your kind of go-to method for bringing those nerves down?
I think for me, like before if I'm doing any kind of public speaking or doing any kind of like, more like official type things other than, joining a meeting type thing. I think for me, it's just a quick moment of reset from like a deep breath. And one tip that a previous manager gave me, and I don't think I've ever told anyone this, is to do a star jump, or just jump in the air beforehand. Obviously, probably not on camera, but just to kind of like reset yourself and like, you're then kind of present and ready for that kind of next thing. Yeah, I've never told anyone that, but that is something that I will. Yeah, you could probably if you see me before a talk or something like that, you'll probably see me doing a star jump somewhere.
Well, thank you for the world exclusive, first of
Yeah,
all. I love that. But that makes sense. I mean, there are lots of things, uh, physical things that you can do to help, and I love the idea of just shaking it all off like that by doing the star jump. Um, I'm often reminding myself to drop my shoulders and to drop
yeah,
like release the tension in my jaw and drop my tongue down, and the we're constantly like this for most of the day, and so getting up out of your chair, out of this environment that you're in for 8 hours a day, to just jump about or have a dance to a piece of music, or like that's a great way of doing it. I love that. Thank you for
yeah.
sharing.
Just do something silly. Like, why not? Like, yeah,
Yeah, I love that. And I'm getting like I'm wondering if there's a running theme of the beauty and the wonder and the regenerative energy of being silly, like holding the Mr. Potato Nut in the
yeah,
camera or doing a star jump, or there's something about that I think that feels very energizing.
yeah,
Um, because there's one thing to take pride in your work, but it doesn't mean that you have everything has to be gray and boring and dull. Like you should have fun in doing this and with the team that you're doing it with, right?
yeah. 100%. I mean, like, if you think about it, how much of our lives to be spent at work? Like a huge amount, and like a big part of, I guess, the way that I lead, and equally just like my general being is playfulness, and like that really shows up, I think, in the teams that I lead and the work that I do, and equally outside of work as well. And I think, yeah, like, let's not take ourselves too seriously. Like when you think about some of the professions that are out there, like there's literally saving lives. Like we're working in design, and yes, we're having some really great impact. But what could go wrong at the end of the day is probably very different to what it could be if you're maybe in like an operating theater, for example. So like, yeah, for me, I think creating that environment of play is such a critical piece for me, and I think it shows up in the work as well, because you're freer and you can think and you can explore more, and you can, I guess, just kind of, somewhat be okay to fail a little as well.
Right. Right. If yeah, that's a really great point. Like I think it's probably fairly obvious to say if you're having fun doing a creative endeavor, that fun shines through. Much like when you have two actors that like each other
Yeah,
in the real world, you can feel that chemistry. And but the idea that if you're taking pride in your work, but you're not taking yourself seriously, failure then becomes far less painful because
yeah,
it's play, it's exploration, it's the stakes are not as you're not setting your own stakes so high. You're saying, yeah, we need to do a good job and we need to deliver X, Y, and Z, but we're gonna deliver that through exploration, through play and discover and so if we stumble here, fine, we get up, brush ourselves off and go off in the new direction.
yeah.
I
And
really like that.
Yeah, and I think if you think about it as well, like, as kids, we played every day, every moment of the day. We were less afraid, to fail and things like that. And like, I think as you get older, like, yeah, fear creeps in, and it's less maybe appropriate to be silly or whatever else. But like, I find trying to lean into that is just is very freeing, and really does help like push you and the work forward. So yeah, it's a big part of who I am. Yeah, being
Mm.
playful and silly.
I love that. I'm going to take that with me for the rest of the day.
Yeah,
Thank you. I
nice.
really do. I really enjoy that. Um, I'd love to know if you go back to the beginning of your career, if you could give us like a bullet point journey. Doesn't have to touch everything, but the kind of key milestones from the start to where you are now.
Yeah. So I guess my career started quite early on, at the point of high school, to be honest, where I had an opportunity to kind of think about, like most people do, around like what do they want to do for work experience. We got a list of companies that had signed up as part of the school, and we're like, cool, pick from these. I wasn't interested in any of that. And I kind of did my own kind of research and my own kind of outreach into kind of design agencies. And I started probably about 15, 16 doing that kind of placement with the design agency. And I kept in touch with them whilst I kind of did my exams and did all the rest of it. And I kind of got to the point of like, well, what do I want to do next? Like, I've done all these exams. Do I want to go down the kind of university path? What's next type thing? And I had the opportunity to kind of join that agency as a junior designer. And I think, to be honest, I probably wasn't doing that much design in the beginning. I think still one of my biggest achievements is being able to carry 8 cups of coffee at the same time without a tray. I don't know how I managed that and how I don't scald myself, but yeah, that's a LinkedIn headline right
Impressive.
there.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, so yeah, I joined that agency kind of really kind of young. I was 16, 17, something like that. And I ended up kind of studying part-time on the side, if you like. So yeah, I started out in the agency side of things. Very much in that what was digital agency at the time. And like doing a lot of kind of early kind of flash work, CD-ROMs, all that, like, like this was a long time ago. And I still miss Flash. So if
Mm,
anybody can bring
same.
it back, like,
Oh,
um,
please. Yeah.
yeah, my happy place. But so yeah, I kind of started off agency side, and then kind of moved around a couple of agencies, and then I kind of first moved into tech at Skyscanner. So I joined Skyscanner as the first permanent kind of designer, and very much kind of started in that kind of brand and marketing place, and kind of led on things like rebrands and all the kind of marketing touch points, and really kind of started to kind of grow that function out before moving into more of a kind of UX and product space. And that's when I really fell in love with kind of product design and everything that kind of brought. And I was at Skyscanner for about 8 or 9 years, touched pretty much every part of the product, led various teams. I think my legacy was introducing the design system that powered kind of all the different platforms there. Um, and then I took a bit of a leap of faith, and I moved to Australia with my partner. I got a job at Atlassian, and I joined Atlassian leading our platform team. So really, my kind of core role there was accelerating the shift from on-premise software into cloud, and thinking about how we move from point products into kind of more product ecosystems, really, in portfolios. So my team led everything from like the editing experience through to notifications, through to design system, and a bunch of other things there as well. And I was there kind of during the pandemic, and really, I guess kind of what brought us back to the UK was kind of the pandemic in some respects. Like great place to be during the pandemic. Things generally went back to normal fairly quickly. We were able to travel around Australia and saw so much of it, which was amazing. But really, I guess just that kind of uncertainty around what was happening in the world really kind of brought us back. maybe a year or so earlier than they maybe would have come back. But
Mm.
came back, moved to London, and I joined a startup called Whereby. So Whereby is or was and is a kind of product all about video conferencing, and saw a great uptick during pandemic, as all the kind of remote tools did. Numbers somewhat started to dwindle a little bit afterwards, but we pivoted into a kind of more B2B solution, offering kind of video as a service, and that really kind of helped extend our runway quite a bit there. And then more recently, joined OVO Energy. So I've been at OVO Energy for about 3 years, leading across everything in product design, but also kind of more recently in the creative marketing space as well. And that touches everything from our customer experiences, like our app and our web experiences, through to all the kind of advisor and engineering tooling that we build as well. So yeah, that's kind of been my journey today.
Wow, fantastic. There's a number of things in there that really stand out. Firstly, but not most importantly, 8 cups of hot liquid without a tray is
Yeah,
super impressive. Like, I
yeah.
can't
I mean,
even begin. Is that like 4 each hand? Like,
yeah, it was generally for each hand, yes.
wow.
So yeah, I mean, I think when I kept adding one to the point, like like two were fine, and then I was like, okay, I'll maybe get three. I didn't get past eight, so
Right,
maybe there's a challenge there somewhere. But yeah,
right.
yeah,
It reminds me of I did work experience in a theatre in Oxford when I was, uh I guess I would have been 14 or 15 or something like that. And I was on tea duty or one day and I had a tray of probably not as many as 8, maybe 5 or 6, but they had a printer cable in one of those rubber
oh yes,
things across the floor to stop
yeah.
you from tripping.
Mm.
And you
You
can
should,
tell where this story goes.
yeah, yeah, or
So
where the tea and coffee went, yes.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So it reminded me of that, but that's impressive. I think, yeah, you're right. LinkedIn headline like
Yeah,
should be replaced immediately if you don't already have that on there.
exactly.
And then I love the idea, and I want to find out a little bit more about that move to Australia. And I want to come back to Skyscanner and talk about that. But I'm always interested when I speak with a guest and they've done this big move from one country to another country. What kind of instantly hit you in terms of cultural, creative differences from here to there?
I don't know. I think in some respects there was a lot of similarities. Like I think for me, like there's a large part of the Australian culture which is, that comes from Britain.
Mm.
But equally, I think that the proximity to Asia as well was a kind of real kind of influence there, I think, as well. So I think like culturally there was this kind of strange dynamic of like directness that you get from people, but equally maybe more of the sensitive, like slight kind of quietness from maybe some of the Asian culture as well, and that kind of deep
Right.
respect part as well. So like there was this kind of great mix, I think, between cultures, and I think that showed up in the teams and like even how you run design critiques and things like that, where yeah, you've got different people and different kind of cultures kind of coming together to look at work. So yeah, I think in some respects it was a really nice dynamic that we had.
Mm. And I guess, I mean, I know when we spoke before, we kind of crossed paths in Edinburgh, but not quite at the same time.
Yes.
And so having lived in Edinburgh, and I adore that city, I adore Scotland, and I adore the Scots. Like, what I loved during my time up there was you, for the most part, you know where you stand when talking with a Scot. And
Yeah.
I don't mean that harshly, but there's no pretense, there's no mask, you know, and it felt like everyone's given a fair shot until you prove to be someone that shouldn't be given a fair shot. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I
Yeah.
love that. And so it's interesting to hear you say about in Australia that's the sort of direct approach. And I think direct can have negative baggage and connotation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't feel like you meant it that way. I just, you know where
No.
you stand.
I think it is about yeah, knowing where you stand and that like I guess just real honesty as well. Like there's no
Yeah.
pretense and there's no like hidden agenda or like
Mm,
kind of undertone around anything. It's like you kind of see what you get and or you know get what you see type thing. And like I think it is yeah, it's very similar to that kind of Scottish kind of like culture that you've described as well.
mm. It was genuinely such a breath of fresh air for someone who I can't stand politics with a small p,
Yeah.
you know, and in England, that's all you get.
Hmm.
I'm paraphrasing. I'm like painting with a very broad brush, but like it's very, very prevalent. Someone will smile and say how nice you look, and then the second later you'll hear them saying how awful you look round the corner. Like
Yeah.
it's so prevalent, and so it was so lovely to go up there and be met with such a welcome by everybody,
Yeah.
from cabbie to shop owner to clients to whatever. Like they really was such a welcome, and so it's really interesting to hear that there is that similarity of those two. Did you know that before going out there? Like, was Australia always on the cards, or was it just a thing the opportunity came up?
I mean, it was never planned. It kind of came up. I remember, you know, as many people do, have a you know bit of a bad day at work, and you think, okay, well, what else is out there, type thing. And I randomly applied for this job. I'd obviously knew Atlassian from Jira and Confluence and other products and stuff. I was, oh, I'll apply for it, you know. And ended up, you know, going through the process. Was flown out to Australia for kind of some final stage interviews. And I think for me, it was at that point when I spent about a week in Australia as part of those interviews, that I really started to think what could be. And I got really excited about that. And I think the people I'd met, like, as you said, not just the people that I'd met in the office, but like, you know, people in the coffee shop and the hotel, wherever, like, I was like, I could see myself living here. And I think that was the moment to me that I was like, I remember calling my partner, I was like, "Oh, I will hope this works. Like, I want to move." Like, yeah, there was that real excitement I think about it, and it was just like you could just see yourself and picture yourself being there.
Mm,
For me, that's kind of what gave us that reason and that decision to kind of move. And even when you know I got the offer and was like, "Cool, like, what do we want to do?" We just didn't really think about it too much. So I remember I got the offer in October. Randomly, I was in China at the time, and I was getting the offer from Australia. So like this like weird dynamic of like where the hell are we in the world? I remember being at a hotel in China, and like I came off the call. I spoke to my partner. I was like, got got the offer. Like, do we want to do this? And we were kind of like, yeah, let's do it type thing. So we kind of both just smiled and nodded at each other and was like, yeah, let's do it. And really, that was probably the only time that we ever really discussed actually moving to Australia. By the December, our house was packed up. We had kind of had probably about 8 or 9 different leaving parties to the point that people were like, "Will you just leave now?" Um, and then in the January, like we were on a plane and we're in Australia. So like I think we look back on that time and we always think like, had we thought about it anymore, we would have talked ourselves out of it.
right.
Yeah, it was a leap of faith, and absolutely one of the best ones that I've taken. It was great.
I mean, I can tell from your expression as you talk about that time that there's a fondness looking back on there. And I love that. I love the idea of feeling that impetus, feeling, yeah, this is the right thing. Like, I'm excited by this.
Yeah,
Um, I can remember as a teenager in my mum's village, there was a public swimming pool, an outdoor swimming pool that was unheated. And you really sat by the pool until you felt that thing of, okay, I'm just going to do it. And then you jump in
yeah,
and there's the shock to the body. But like, you couldn't just lower yourself in because it was so bloody cold.
yeah.
And but like, I would love to know if that, do you also get that sense of feeling excited about something and knowing that it's the right route with work? Do you, as you're kind of exploring a creative route or a creative direction, is there that kind of physical, ooh, there's something here at some point in the process?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I wouldn't say that it happens every day or all the time. But I think sometimes when you are unpicking an idea or you're starting to explore something like, yeah, we're onto something here. This is particularly cool, different, or it's worth exploration. And I think like even when I think back to some of the time at Whereby, where we were kind of leading the video conferencing piece, we were doing some really cool interaction design work around how to manage video within a browser. And like some of the things that we were playing around with in terms of like dynamic layouts and how to bring in different applications and all of that type of stuff into the space is now very much table stakes. Let's be honest.
Mm,
Um, but actually, like this was quite new and it was like quite exciting. And like when you were looking at other products at the time, such as Google Meet, Zoom, etc., it was all quite standard. It was like you've got boxes on the screen, and it was just very typical. And not that we created anything just for the sake of it, but actually, when we went through some of that exploration, as we started to test some of this with customers, not only were we getting a little bit like kind of fuzzy inside, but we could also see that through like how customers were responding to it as well, and how the changes that we were implementing were actually kind of paying off. So yeah, I think there's definitely a few moments, and I always like to think about like what are the signature moments in an experience, like what makes that experience different, or stand out, or like what makes it unique. And for me, that piece around how we manage that interaction around the dynamic stage within a video conferencing piece there was one of those signature moments. And yeah, I think there's a few of those throughout my career that I would go back to and be like, yeah, we did something special there, or we did something different.
mm. I love that. I mean, as creatives, no matter what work we're doing, we're always trying to elicit an emotional response, right?
Yeah,
That's our goal. And so to have those wow moments within an experience, within a digital experience is so important. And then y- when you say, "Oh, it's a wow moment," I think for most people, especially not working in the industry, they probably think of something big, but it could even be like a really beautiful little touch of a animation on a button when you click it. Like
yeah,
just those moments of joy that help the story of whatever that experience is.
yeah.
Um, you mentioned about there's a number of those moments in your career. If you When you think back to all the places that you told us about, is there one piece that really stands out that you are like super proud of?
Let me think. I mean, I've given you that example, which is definitely one of them there. Um, I think some of the work that we did at Skyscanner as well, like it was such. I guess there's many reasons why Skyscanner is such a key part of my career and journey. Like we created such a great international product. And from day one, and international by default from day one was like both challenging, but also super rewarding because we were creating something for everyone. And one of the things that we used to kind of talk about was like, well, who is our audience? Like, well, it's anyone who travels. Okay, cool. Who's that? Well, that's everyone, because everyone travels for a reason, even if it's to go to the shops. And like we had some really kind of like early bets around like how you move from postcode to postcode, beyond just the idea of moving, through flights, if you like. So, I think for me there was a lot of the work that we did around mobile. That was a kind of big standout for me. So again, feels weird saying this in like 2026, talking about the shift to mobile, but at the time it was desktop ruled the world, and like the kind of that shift into that kind of mobile space was something that not many had done, and we were like one of the first big players to have like a kind of really great simple app that could allow people to do some search. And I think one of the things that we developed really early on as well, which was again one of these big kind of wow moments, was around being able to search anywhere. And like I think again from some of the experience that we had from customers was like, well, they don't know where they want to go or when they want to go. All they know is that they want to go on holiday. or they need to go for, you know, a meeting or something like that. And like really taking that broad search thing of I'm searching for everything. How can I help a customer see everything, but also boil it down into something that is tangible that they can make a decision on? And I think the work that we did around Search Anywhere back in the day in a mobile context was, I think, quite groundbreaking for the time.
Mm. I I know you've mentioned, a couple of times that idea of either something that you worked on at the beginning is now table stakes or odd to think about mobile in 2026, the move to mobile. But it's easy for us who have worked at the cutting edge to forget how innovative those things were when we were
Yeah,
working on them because it's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And because technology changes and changes and changes, I think
yeah,
maybe sort of within the next 12, 18 months, we're not really going to have websites. The LLM search is going to be the key thing that takes over, and digital experiences as we know them are probably going to become a bit passe. So it's constantly changing, and it's very easy for us to just focus on the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, and not take stock and go back and look at things and go, yeah, you know what, that was huge, and I'm really proud of that. So I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
definitely. Because I think that's the thing, you do just move to the next thing, don't you? And you're like, "Okay,
Mm,
what is this?" And then you do a little bit of reflection, like, "We did some really cool stuff there, and it was
mm.
such a great time." And I think we're equally at a point now where, you know, obviously we need to talk about AI, but, like, like, we're at a point where there's a massive shift around interaction patterns, around products, around consumer behavior, around trust, all of these kind of big topics, that we're now creating something again, which is probably leapfrogging even the kind of like the shifts that we were used to navigating before. And I think one, it's such an interesting time and it's great to be part of, but two, it's absolutely terrifying as well because like it's moving at such a rate that like how do you keep up? Like nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. I was having this conversation just yesterday. The idea that we as humans we've been through a number of revolutions, but
Yeah.
they happen over like this expanse of time. That's going to work well for the audio version, isn't it? They happen over an extended period of time, whereas what's happening now with AI and tech is happening over a far more truncated amount of time. So in the past, as these changes were happening, maybe it was easier for us to envisage what's going to happen from this change. Whereas at the moment, things are so rapid. I think for me, the scary thing is I can't fully see, no one can fully see what the end result of all of this is going to be. We
No.
can see that it's having negative and positive impacts across the world, across every industry, across every country. But to what end? Are we going to end up like Wally? Are we all going to be on a spaceship on sunbeds whilst robots do everything, or what? And I think that is what's causing a lot of anxiety for people on a grander scale. Of course, the hiring market and the way things are right now, is being impacted by tech and AI and the rapid movements, as well as global financial crisis and wars and et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of anxiety and worry going on around the world. So it's time to get up and star jump, I guess, is what we're saying, not to
It is.
trivialize everything that's going on. Um, Flipping the idea of the work that you're proud of, is there a piece that didn't quite go according to plan, and what did you learn from that?
Um, Yeah, I mean, there's plenty, isn't there? Like, I think anybody just needs to kind of like shift through a kind of portfolio type thing. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, and you slight kind of wincing if you like.
Yeah.
But uh, I mean, I think for me, one of the pieces that was a real learning moment was um around the time at Atlassian, where we were looking at the editing experience. I think ultimately where we ended up was fantastic. But like actually that journey in getting there was hard, and it was hard for a number of reasons. Like I guess just to remind you, we were working in a platform kind of organization, so um we were creating experiences that sat in every single product. We had about 12 different products that we were creating a single experience for. And that was challenging because, not only did we have to think about the kind of the multi-product customer, we were also thinking about all the different stakeholders and how they were thinking individually about their different customers as well. So like there was just a huge amount of organizational complexity. There was product complexity. And then we were also dealing with some code bases that were like 17, 18 years old at a time as well. So like there's a lot of technical complexity wrapped up in all of this. And I think one of the things that, as we were kind of exploring, like, why wouldn't customers move from the on-prem solutions into the cloud offering? Well, I think ultimately our cloud offering at that time just wasn't as good. And like it just wasn't as compelling. It lacked features, it lacked things for power users, um, it lacked things for the admins, never mind the end users. Like there was a bunch of things that it just didn't quite do. And like when we came back to the editing experience, this might feel quite simple, but it was actually quite a big discovery around like, we had simplified because we felt simplification was the way to go, how tables work within within an editing experience. And what we kind of discovered was that people didn't need tables. What they wanted was the ability to do layouts, page layouts. And people were using tables like we did back in the 90s type thing for doing websites. They were laying out documents using tables. And we had overly simplified the table functionality to the point that people couldn't achieve what they used to be able to achieve. And again, seems super simple and super logical, but we kind of had to go through that journey of creating things and like, okay, cool, well, we need advanced formulas or we need this data within this table and we need to be able to do that. And actually, like it turned out to be quite a simple task that we're trying to do, which was actually just, page layouts. And what we were able to do is then offer that as an actual feature and an actual thing, which meant we were able to keep the simplification of the table kind of piece, and also kind of offer a feature that actually solved the problem as well. So, yeah, maybe a small example, but one that always stands out to me because there was a big learning moment in that, and that was a key thing for us.
And I love that like there was a learning moment for you and the team, but then you listened and you did something about it. Like
Yeah,
you heard from the users, this is the actual reality. This
yeah,
is actually what they want as a product feature, and acted upon that. So often companies ask for feedback and then it's never really properly interrogated to figure out they're saying this is the problem, but actually it's this thing underneath that is the
yeah.
real issue. So that's great. Kudos to you for listening in and tuning into what was actually going on. When you think about outside of work, what's the thing that you're most proud of?
So at the moment, I've picked up a new hobby by accident, and I'm really proud of that. And I'll tell you more about that. So, my friend and I were talking about various things that we could do as a bit of a hobby, to get out of the house one evening. And the idea came up about doing improv. And I was like, okay, I'm not too sure about that, but like, let's give it a go. So he signed up, I signed up. We both signed up to different nights. So we're now doing this hobby separately, as opposed to together. And yeah, kind of slightly thrown into it without really thinking about it. It's like, cool, yeah, I'll do that, fine. So I think for me though, like what I love about it is that one, yeah, gets you at the house, but you're doing something where you can't be thinking about everything else that's happened during that day. Because you're in a different environment. Like you are kind of trying to come up with ideas on the spot. And like it's really using a similar muscle in some respects to what we do in terms of leadership. I'm not saying that we're always just making it up on the go, but we kind of are. But like it's kind of practicing that muscle as well. And it really plays to that kind of playfulness, silliness type thing that I love as well. So I think for me, I'm super proud of that because one, it happened by accident. and two, it's really pushing me as well. Like, you know, we had an improv jam the other day, where again, I didn't really think too much about going along to it. Ended up on stage in front of an audience, and was just like, okay, cool, here we are, let's get on with it. And one of the big things that I think that I love about the improv side of things as well is that we really celebrate failure, like, because sometimes you can't think of something or you do mess up, and we have this kind of thing of like, yay, failure, and then we just move on, and it's like it's just what you do, and like we had one of those moments on the stage the other day there as well, and it was like, yeah, cool, like we move on from it, and like, yeah, that's a hobby that I've picked up literally this year, and yeah, I'm finding really enjoyable, to be honest.
I love that you've just thrown yourself into it. You know, you were going to go with your friend, but then different nights, and so you've turned up and you've still gone. Like I think for
Yeah,
many of us, we'd be like, okay, I haven't got that safety net of my mate next to me, so
yeah,
no, I'm not going to go.
yeah,
But also the idea of like having fun when something doesn't go right, and especially in improv, that often becomes really funny, like when
yeah,
something doesn't quite go right. And so finding the fun in that, finding the sense of joy, again, it's about those little moments of joy, right? Finding the fun in that, I think is a great lesson for us. Talking of lessons, cheesy segue alert. Uh, if you think back to your whole career, is there a point in time that you'd go back to you, the age that you are then, but knowing what you know now? And if there is, what would you say to yourself?
oh, that's a good question. um I think I would say to just be yourself to a point, and like not worry about what others think as much. And I don't know if that's something that's personally just me, because I think, you know, as young people, you're always a bit worried about what everyone else thinks of you, whether that's your friends or people at work or whatever else type thing. But like, I think for a long time, I didn't really bring my whole self to work. Like, I wouldn't necessarily tell folks what I'd been up to at the weekend or share what I was into and that type of thing. And I think like just being able to just be a bit freer and but like, well, yeah, this is what I am doing, or you know, what I'm into. Like, I would never have told anyone, one, that I did a star jump, or two, that I'm doing improv type thing. Like, but you know, I don't really care what anyone thinks. So like, I think that's probably one of the things that I would love to go back early on, because I think being freer um earlier in your career, because you probably think that everybody knows everything and that everyone's got it worked out, and so therefore you're being a bit more careful. I'd love to have probably had that level of being freer at that earlier stage.
Mm, there's a lot of love in that answer, I think, because for anyone listening or watching who is feeling, like you say, like, oh, everyone else has got it figured out, that's the key. No one has everything figured
Yeah,
out.
not at
You
all.
know, we're all working our way and figuring our way through life. And some people just show that better than others, or hide that better than others, maybe is a better description. And so I think what you're saying there is really giving permission for people to be themselves.
Yeah,
And I really love that.
yeah,
And it's funny working with different teams across the world. I've found some teams in some countries, or some parts of countries even, are super open with that. For example, West Coast in the States, it's very welcoming for you to be whoever you are,
yeah,
and bring your authentic self to work. Whereas working with a team, say in London, it's slightly less so. There is an element of I've often said there's an element of sort of school playground. Oh, you like that kind of music? Oh, that's not very cool type
yeah,
thing, you know?
yeah,
And I despise that because, okay, so there might be some piece of music that someone likes that I don't like, but they like it. And it's such an emotive thing. Why on earth would I rag on that? Or why would I want them to be unkind about whatever I like? You know, so I think there's a huge amount of love in that answer. Thank
yeah,
you. I appreciate you sharing that.
not at all.
I would love to know what you hope those listening or watching this episode are going to take away from it.
I think for me, it's about trying to find the fun where you can. Um, because as I said at the start of this, like we spend so much of our time at work. How can you just have a little bit more fun? How can you just make the moment a little bit lighter? Um, those in design leadership positions, there are hard things that we need to do at times. It's not always pleasant. There's decisions that we need to make. Um, but equally, we can do it with the right intentions and do it in the best way possible and hopefully have a little bit of fun along the way as well. So like, I think that would be my number one thing of like, how could you make tomorrow that one, that little bit lighter, or how could you have a bit more playfulness this week? Like that to me is key.
Mm. And I think that's the social clip for this episode right there, giving
Nice.
people permission to discover how they have more fun in their week.
Yeah.
We've reached the end of our time. So it's the final question. It's the same final question that every guest gets asked. James, are you awaiting approval?
No, I'm not. And that probably doesn't come as a surprise given some of the things I've said around, wanting and needing to be yourself and having a bit of fun. So no, no one needs approval.
I love it. This is your time to let people know how they can get in contact with you, anything that you want to share, events coming up, like maybe how they can come and see you do improv, if you want them to come and see you. But it's your moment to share those kind of details.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Well, no, thanks for having me. And yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, LinkedIn is probably the best place. I'm generally on top of my messages, I promise. And that's, yeah, probably the best way to reach me. As I said, based in Brighton, but I'm in London fairly regularly as well. So you might see me at a few different kind of events and meetups and that type of stuff. So, yeah, give me a shout on LinkedIn. Is probably the best place first.
Brilliant. James, thank you so much. This is an episode full of energy and fun, most importantly. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right. Had to end it with peanut butter.
Had
Yeah.
to, had to. For those
Brilliant.
listening on the audio version, if you want to see Mr. Potato slash Mr. Nut, or like potato peanut, potato, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound quite right. But if you want to see it, then head to the video version on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple, and you'll see him in all his glory. James, thank you so much.
All right. No, thank you, Adam.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're feeling stuck or want to think out loud about where you're heading, remember that you don't have to figure that all out on your own. I offer a free 15-minute conversation to anyone who wants help figuring out what's in front of them. Whether that leads to us working together or not doesn't matter. What matters is that you have someone in your corner, even if it's just for those 15 minutes. Head to growwithadamjennings.com and book your call. I'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the show so that you don't miss the rest of season 3. There is some absolute gold coming your way. So until next time, keep creating, keep questioning, and above all else, keep going.